So one of the main parts of this movie was that the main character, Louise, is a linguist. She studied many different languages from Chinese to Farsi. She talks about how culture is related to language. If you're exposed to different languages, you understand many different cultures and you have higher empathy for people based on understanding how they think.
She was talking with the war people of the American government, and they were always pushing to protect America and to figure out how the aliens might be a threat. And she was like, nah, let's get to know them. Her coworker, Ian,
he relates back to this idea of Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis, which is language influences your thoughts. So based on what language and how your language is structured is parallels to how you think.
Learning a language is really just learning another way of thinking in the ways that the different governments are handling each of their separate heptapod UFOs. So in America, they're using Louise's approach, where they're starting with basic sentences, trying to teach them English from a really fundamental level, whereas the Chinese government, we're told, uses a game to try and communicate with them. And Louise points out that if the only language that you're using to communicate with the heptapods is the idea of victory and defeat, then you're only going to be communicating those ideas, and it's going to be very aggressive in nature. Another thing it's really interesting to look at is the language that the heptapods speak.
There's the idea that their language is semisographic, I believe that's what it's called, and it basically conveys meaning, not sound. Our language is limited because we're not occupying that second channel of communication, which probably relates to why we cannot see time as non-linear while they can, because we are not channeling our thoughts in the same way as their language is structured.
Symbols that they write, I think they called it a logogram or something.
Yes.
It is free of time. It takes the same amount of space to communicate one word versus communicating a really complex sentence.
And they write from both directions at the same time.
It's just
so it's non-linear orthography is what they called it in the movie. And
building off this idea really correlates to this theme of memory. And we see this pop up in Louise's life. She begins to remember the future.
So essentially, her learning the language is unlocking the memories of the future for her and creating time in a non-linear fashion, which is similar relating to Proust's idea of memory and how the Madeleine for Marcel really unlocked a whole nother period of time.
You could say just in Proust it's unlocking the past, and in Arrival it's unlocking the present. So an example is she starts getting this memory of the future of her daughter, asking her for a vocabulary word, and she remembers this when Ian, the scientist in the present, actually says non-zero sum game. It kind of triggers her memory, and she goes into this whole reverie of remembering the future with her daughter. This ability to recall things, whether it be from the past or from the future, it can be a really helpful tool. So in Swann's way,
because he understands so well his own memories, he's able to relate them to other people's memories and understand Swann's life and even tell his story.
Memory is his tool that he uses in writing. And in Arrival, memory is a tool that Louise uses
through language
in language to
relate to the beings that she's trying to communicate with, and kind of
and
understand the barrier between communication and solve the issue between them in a non-violent fashion.
So basically, Proust is Louise. Proust and Louise are the same person.